funny, I keep getting introduced as a guest, and I was like in the email this week, and it just feels like coming home, right? I don't really feel like a guest. So, which means you're going to give me a lot of grace if I don't get this right sometimes, right? Do you remember the thing that I usually do that I forgot to get a slide for? Care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion. Could you do that with me like 3 times? Care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion. Care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion. Care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion. So I ended up this week with the topic of possibility. And let me tell you, there are 5 bazillion possible ways to talk about possibility, so much so that I was awake at 4 o'clock in the morning with 3 billion of them yesterday morning. And then today, sort of rewriting the whole thing. So wish me luck. Or I'm wishing you luck, really. But it was funny because I walked out to the lobby before, just to sit for a minute, it's quiet out there. And there's a cat in this building, Cuddles the cat, right? Was not only in the lobby, but sitting on top of the water fountain, which was very dry. And so I looked at her and I was like, okay. So I hit the button, here's the spout. And the cat looks at me, literally shakes its head, and looks at and meows at me, looking at the thing where the water comes straight down to fill your water bottle. So I push that button, and the cat proceeds to drink for like 5 minutes. And I was like, if I could only know so clearly that the universe is like sitting there just for me to walk by and say what I want and know that some human or some being or something is just going to do what I want it to do, right? Of course, this would work in my life too, but nobody wants to do what I want them to do lately. Anyway, in a compilation of Ernest Holmes' talks called Love and Law, this came from one of his talks. There is only one thing that I ask of you, and that is that you will believe absolutely that this thing works. If you do not believe it works, it will not work, because everything is belief. Everything is mind, and all operation is thought. And there is not a law in the universe that is not the power of mind in action, and there never was and there never will be. Anything you ever saw or ever will see is simply the result of mind in action. I imagine him getting a little fired up with this, right? Because he goes on to say, I want to endeavor to show you how you can become less limited. I say again, this will mean absolutely nothing to you. It is worthless, useless, unless you absolutely believe it. And not only believe it, but that you go right at it as though you had always known it, and it had always worked, and there's no possibility of failure. I was like, you're just standing at the water fountain waiting for someone to push the button and knowing that the button's going to get pushed, right? So a couple questions for you to kind of hold on to this morning while we do this. The first one is, what does your heart secretly know is possible? What does your heart secretly know is possible? And the second one is, do you believe? Can you believe, even for this hour, I won't talk for an hour, the 20 minutes that I'm going to talk, but even for this hour, that the universe, spirit, the force, is always conspiring for your highest good. Oh, sometimes that was hard. So I want you to close your eyes for just a second if you're willing, or just soften your gaze a little bit. And of course, I'm going to say take a deep breath, because that's what we always say after close your eyes, right? Take a deep breath. But lean into this energy called possibility. Just the energy. Don't start making a plan. Don't worry about how you're going to get there, what it is. Don't even think about what it is. Just hear the word possible and soak it in a little bit. Now, this is not a somber, sleepy moment. Possible is alive with energy and potential and vibration. Let yourself meet that vibration. Like, feel it sparking off your fingertips. Can you feel that at all? Just possible. In, around, through you, alive with it. Let it go through you as if you have always known it. And then memorize that feeling in your body in a way that you can snap your finger and pull it back in. You can do that. Snap, feel it. Snap, feel it. And in that energy, just kind of absorb these words. Everything is possible. The universe is fundamentally abundant. Your mind and your imagination are its instrument. Genuine possibility is only as small or as large as your willingness to believe. Snap. So a few weeks ago, I spoke about our hearts really being the center of this thing we refer to as mind, and understanding this connection to oneness as we get it, that we have to go from thinking about it to embodying it, which is kind of what this is also. We have to embody this idea that possibility is limitless. Right? Anyone with me? Very somber. You've heard all this sparky energy. Right? But we have to believe it, not just in this minute. We have to believe it all the time as our lived experience. And the thing about that that is amazing and sometimes sucks is that it's true whether it feels good in the moment or not. Now, I warned you, I turned 60 not too long ago, which means that I get to swear sometimes, and I always wear comfortable shoes. So, I try to get all the swearing out. There is one thing that I ask of you, and that is that you will believe absolutely that this thing works. Now, because of the way my head works, I have to look at what are the blocks. What are the blocks to this for me, for you, for all of us, potentially? What stops us from having this lived experience of imagination and creativity and good? What gets in our way? Because I can overthink literally everything. I don't know if anyone else can, but it also has to make sense to me. And one of the things that I fell in love with about Science of Mind a very long time ago was that it made sense to me. So now we add in to all of these things that we have been learning and teaching and doing as a spiritual practice, and now we learn more about neuroscience, and we learn more about how our brains work, and we learn more about how our hearts work, and we learn all these things, and they all actually just kind of prove everything that we've been talking about for like 100 years now. But what I'm learning again is that it's the patterns that we have ingrained in our brains and in our synapses that often rule the day. So do you remember the movie The Matrix? Raise your hand if you've seen it so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, yay. It's like foundations class, The Matrix, right? So the journey of Neo, Neo, the main character, is to unlearn everything that he thought was true about the nature of the universe and come to understand that when he is plugged in and paying attention, but when he's plugged into this life that we have settled for of limitation and struggle and striving, then he's limited and struggling and striving. But when he is plugged into that this is not actually real, and he can move his mind beyond that, he is able to let go of that belief, and he can do literally anything. But in one part of the story, while he's still figuring this out, after jumping off the building and not quite making it, but, he remember? But he's starting to understand. He ends up in a room full of kids. And they're like bending spoons and playing with things in the air, moving things in the air with their minds and doing all this really stuff that feels magical to us, but was really normal for them at that time. So Neo, he's engaging with the spoon bender kid, right? And he's doing exactly what I would do. He's like staring at the spoon and trying to make it bend. And if I just pray hard enough and think hard enough and focus hard enough, I can make the spoon bend. Probably while looking like I have gas, but nonetheless. Does anyone else do this when you're when you're trying to make a change in your life? You're like so like this and focused, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it. The only way, because we have this pattern in our brain that says this is a spoon and it can't be bent, and so the only way that our minds can imagine that we can bend the spoon is to take it and physically wrestle with it, and so we turn that wrestling match into something that we're doing with our brain, because we cannot move off of the fact that this is a solid spoon. There's some pattern in our brains that says everything has to be effortful and hard. What's that? Remember that? I don't know. Did you grow up with the story you have to work hard or it's not worth having? Right? That is not actually how the universe works. So Neo, he's like struggling with the spoon and struggling with the spoon and doing the thing and struggling with the spoon. And the kid just looks at him with this like look of peace and calm. He says, "You're forgetting something really important." What was it? There is no spoon. Which is such a great metaphor for how we live out these ingrained patterns in our life. And in our minds, we have agreed to this thing called spoon. And here it is, it's not bendable. We've agreed to this thing called difficult. We've agreed to this thing called struggle and war and strife. And we limit our own possibility with those beliefs. Because the universe itself never limits anything. So can we suspend our belief in separation? So bring back that feeling, just, right? Bring it back. Sparking possibility. If we believed oneness was more than a concept, that it is the living reality of our existence, our imagination would be set free, and we would know that everything that we can imagine, we can create, and likely if we can imagine it, it is actually ours to create, and the universe is calling it forward so that we can make the world a better place. So what else holds us back? The more I think about this brain working thing, we have this amazing capacity for imagination, and we have these ingrained patterns that have been our prior experiences, and those patterns are sometimes working in a really unconscious way. I've been unpatterning some things recently, and you know what I gotta tell you? It's not really fun. It's not always fun. I can see on the other side of it where things might be more fun, but sometimes it's really not fun. Any of you ever you don't have to raise your hand, but any of you ever have any trauma in your past? Maybe you experienced violence as a child or in the military. Maybe your parents were absent or narcissistic or not very kind. Maybe you experienced hunger or lack or limitation. I'm not going to tell you today that those were really for your highest good, because I'm already asking you to suspend your belief in separation, and holding those two things at the same time is probably too much for any of us. Brain explode. That was for my good? And then I swear. I'm not going to do it. But maybe, just maybe, some of the limitation that you place on your imagination and on your joy might come from those ingrained memories and the way that we compare what is happening now, what we're doing now, creating now, living now, to what happened before. And so we give the things that are not congruent with our highest good now kind of a pass because they're better than what happened before. Does this make sense? I'm going to go into it a little more. The best way I can explain it right now is to share a little bit of my journey over this last couple of years, bit of time, which, whoa-ness. Laughter from the people that know me well. This requires water. So dry this year. Anyway, if you had asked me a couple years ago, I would have said, wow, I got the science of mind stuff down. My life is really amazing. Rocking along. Life is good and wonderful. And while the world is a bit of a mess, I was living the experience that I had worked for and saved for and strived for and mentally and physically co-created. And then it all blew the up in a way that was completely out of my control and that I did not see coming at all. Nothing, absolutely nothing in my life today looks like what I thought it was going to look like. You ever had one of those experiences? Anyone? Whoosh. Boom chakalaka. So I call it the cosmic 2x4. You know, maybe you've experienced that. But now, in retrospect, and as I'm unpatterning the patterns, was life really that good and wonderful? I would have said yes. In many ways, yes. Not going to take anything away from the what was. And I was totally burned out and exhausted. Like completely shattered, burned out, exhausted. I had given up connection to this community for someone else. Had given up speaking, told myself I had run out of words. Spent a great deal of time saying things like, it's not really okay for you to speak to me that way. But my brain had these comparison patterns that said things like, work hard, it doesn't matter if you're tired. Anybody go to work sick all the time, other than me? Right? Maybe we're just old. I don't know. Shake it off. Anyone else grow up in the walk it off era? How many sprained ankles did we walk off because we played sports, right? The important thing is that you sacrifice for your family. And you go, that behavior, whatever this behavior is that I'm experiencing right now, it's not nearly as bad as that was. So you let it go and you give it a pass. It doesn't hurt nearly as bad as that did, so it's okay. And if you live in my brain, it's okay if you're not around, no one's going to care anyway. Or literally absorb anything to not be seen as failing. Right? The guys in the room, you're getting this. Makes me tired thinking about it now. Spent a lot of this last year sleeping. But I will say, though, in the midst of the awful, people reminded me that the universe is always conspiring for my greatest good, for our greatest good. And in many of those moments when they would say things like that, I wanted to strangle them. I recommend that if you're supporting somebody who's in a lot of pain, that you be very gentle. But also, hearing those words gives hope. There is this glimmer of hope that, yes, something in this garbage is conspiring to bring forth something more greater and more expressive and more expansive in my life. And that feels like this, like the spark of possibility. We all have these things that stand in the way of our joy and our imagination and our connection with spirit. We all do. We just get to uncover them and unpack them and figure them out. Let something, life itself continues to call us forward to express more and more of itself as love and as joy and as wholeness on this planet. Something within you wants to express more love, more joy, and more wholeness. Spirit is always conspiring for our highest good. It is up to us to begin again. Do any of you read Maria Popova? I'm not sure if I say her last name correctly. She writes a weekly newsletter called The Marginalian. And she named it, she made up that word, but in honor of all of the notes she made in the margins of all the books that she reads. She's a prolific reader, but she puts together these beautiful newsletters that connect the most random authors you've ever, like this person connects to this person, and then there's this art that supports it. It's a really beautiful newsletter. Anyway, she wrote this recently. There are moments in life when we are reminded that we are unfinished, that the story we have been telling ourselves about who we are and where our life leads is yet unwritten. Such moments come most readily at the beginning of something new. To begin again, a new practice, a new project, a new love, is to cast upon yourself a spell against stagnation. I love that sentence. To begin again, a new practice, a new project, a new love, is to cast upon yourself a spell against stagnation. Beginnings are a notation for the symphony of the possible in us. They ask us to break the pattern of our lives and reconfigure it afresh, something that can only be done with the great courage and great tenderness. For no territory of life exposes both our power and our vulnerability more brightly than a beginning. We might not even know what that looks like. I don't know yet, I gotta say. I'm still not sure what life's supposed to look like, gonna look like, what I want, except for the amplification of the really simple, beautiful things. Did anyone come in or down the street in front this morning? The tulips are all blooming, and I highly recommend that you walk out the front door before you go home today and look across the street. They're all blooming. The simple, beautiful things. Friends and family. People who bring soup, smudge the house, show up, answer the phone, remind us of who we are. Our beloved pets. For me, one of the things is you all giving me the space to come back to this spot, doing what I feel like is the thing I'm called here to do. And I hope that I'm not boring. But reminding us daily that there is always, always something to be grateful for and about. And in the practice of gratitude, in that simple practice of gratitude, we come back to the place of imagination and possibility and vulnerability, the space of new beginnings. So we have choices. We can, shut down, block everything, and anything that makes you uncomfortable or requires you to stretch. That's one thing. Okay. Continue to live out the same patterns because you're content with what is, and your patterns are healthy and strong, and that's awesome, and I want to have coffee with you. Or take that breath and embrace belief in the giving nature of the universe, and the possibility of an even more expansive and expressive life than the one that you currently have, and the possibility of a world that is kind and equitable and compassionate and free of discord. To begin again. Because here's the thing. The force is full of energy and life. It is full of joy and peace and deep love. While sometimes these things are hard, they're joyful, or they can be. And all that energy of joy and peace and love, all of that energy one day coalesced and became you. And it coalesced and it became you. And you, and you, and you, and you. It became each and every one of us as an expression of itself. And as an expression of itself, it means that you are also limitless. And you embody the wholeness of itself. You, and you, and you, and you. All of it. If spirit is alive with unlimited possibility, then so are you alive with unlimited possibility. You just simply, and she says simply, simply get to suspend your belief in limitation. You are an unlimited expression of the one life, and you can create anything. And the work, for the lack of a better word, is to uncover and surrender any idea that stands against that truth. I kind of think of it this way, like if your limitations were an old rock wall that's been standing in the middle of a field for like 300 years, right? Because sometimes our limitations feel 300 years old. If you picture that wall and imagine taking it down, and maybe you're a take it down rock by rock and examine every rock person. Maybe you're a, blast a hole right through the middle of it person. Maybe you're a leap over to the other side. And maybe you're a there is no wall person. Whatever your wall, on the other side of it, you are this unlimited expression of life. What will you create and share and be? And back to Ernest, I want to endeavor to show you how you can become less limited. So, what world does your heart secretly know is possible? And do you believe, can you believe, even for this hour that I've been talking, that the universe, spirit, the force is always conspiring for your highest good? For me, at the end of the day, at the end of it all, there will be this poem. It's called Come Sit by My Garden by a woman named Emery Hall. Sorry. It's very dry up here today. Come sit by my garden. Let my gardens speak for me when I am gone. Let them speak in colored whispers of all the beauty I have seen and felt and lived. Let them speak of how much death had to find me, how many hard lessons it took to make me a living, breathing thing. Let them speak of my seasons of growth and abundance, but let them also tell of my seasons of loss and decay. Let the soft, wet earth be a reminder of hardness that did not win. Of sadness that didn't calcify, of surrender that triumphed over resistance. And gee, many Christmas, let the glorious, fragrant blooms speak of my life and its greatest lesson, that the beauty we make never dies. The beauty we make, the beauty that you make, the beauty that we make together never dies. May your week be alive with all the possibility and good that you can possibly hold. Let's go into prayer. Sorry about that. Practiced it. Let my gardens speak for me when I am gone. Let them speak in colored whispers of all the beauty I have seen and felt and lived. Let this day, this week, be a place and a time where each and every one of us speaks in colored whispers of all of the beauty that is available to us. That on this amazing planet, on this amazing earth, in this time, which feels hard and stressful and strifeful, that we remember that joy is the way. Peace is the way. Love and life are the way. And that in these moments and times when we speak and express our joy, we are uplifting everything around us. That the spark of possibility lives in our fingertips, and we can bring it back to ourselves at any moment and live in that belief. We know absolutely that these things are true, that we are limitless, that we are limitless expressions of the one life, one love, one beingness. And I know for each and every one of us, I know for anyone in the room whose button I pushed this morning, who's feeling any of these things, that there is comfort and soup and love and a good hug. I know for each of us who have been standing on the precipice of something new, that there is a great pull to that greater life and expression. And it is within you. And you are safe to allow it to be. I know this day that it is possible and must be that we will have peace on this planet. that we will care for the water and the trees and the earth, that we will come together and make soup and feed each other and figure it out and treat each other with kindness and care and compassion. I hold these things to be absolutely inevitable. And if you can hold that with me, if you want to hold that with me, if you're willing to hold that with me, simply join me in saying, and so it is.